Hi friends, please close your eyes for a bit. चलिए, a quick recap. बताइए brother, what did we study? Yes. Did we discuss these yesterday? I think the day before that. What did? Dictation. Cholo. Enlightenment. Renaissance. What about these periods? Tell me. Rebirth. हाँ ठीक है, और बताइए, link it to sociology. Have you revised? Do it now on an everyday basis for your own sake, beta. Huh? Devote 20 minutes, 25, 30 minutes to one or two revisions. It will greatly benefit you. I'm telling you in all sincerity. Huh? Brother? Very good. The Renaissance was characterized by humanism, realism and empiricism. It was also, these were also reflected in the the writings of the early sociologists. Great. Then what else did we discuss, brother? Yes? In specs and this greyish green shirt. G. Yeah? So, I mean, link enlightenment to Karl Marx, no? I mean, how are you jumping there? How is Marx influenced by or related to enlightenment? Everything was? That is correct. Have you revised? Then try. Explain in a conversational language, Hindi English mix if you will, but just try to explain what did we discuss. Okay, कोई बात नहीं. Brother, yes, yes. Okay, tell me about the ancient period. ठीक है, forget the dark ages. ठीक है. Then I told about Renaissance. He did explain or touched upon. What was the biggest contribution of this Renaissance period? The scientific method. Very importantly, good. Brother, yes. Tell me about the Enlightenment period and how is it connected to the emergence of Socio? Very good. Kant described Enlightenment as the freedom to use one's own intelligence. Radical theories were outlined during this period. Very good. Can you share any such theory or theories, beta? Yes? No, the one behind you, the girl behind you. The self-interest also, I can't hear you there. Okay, it also benefits the other people, not just the individual concerned. Absolutely. Continue. Great. Thank you. What is the social contract theory, beta? Yes. Wonderful. ठीक है. So this is what we broadly discussed, right? लिखवाऊं? तो लिखो. The transformative revolutions in Europe during the 18th and 19th centuries were made possible by the intellectual developments in Europe during the Renaissance and Enlightenment period. Next para. The Renaissance witnessed the scientific revolution and the commercial revolution. The scientific revolution, full stop डालने के बाद, the scientific revolution entailed new scientific inventions and discoveries. New scientific inventions and discoveries. Full stop. Most importantly, it led to the discovery of क्या the scientific method. Full stop. The commercial revolution led to the development of the banking industry and the company form of organization. And how did the commercial revolution come about, friends? It was due to, basically geopolitical rivalries. Spain that time used to enjoy a lot of dominance, okay? And other countries were trying to break its dominance, countries like Portugal. For that, Spain controlled a lot of these trade routes. So Portugal and its other such rivals, they tried to find financed voyages of, guys like de Gama, Vasco da Gama and Columbus type people, so as to find trade routes free from the interjection of Spain. ठीक है, उसकी वजह से a lot of this trade and commerce increased as different parts of the world got connected. Like they discovered India, right? So goods from India could now this thing. So Spain it was. ठीक है. In any case, that's all world history. I'm just giving you a background. लिखा क्या है हमने? Brother. The commercial revolution. ठीक है. And the company form of organization. Full stop. It also led to the emergence of the middle class, which would later provide leadership for the revolutions in Europe. ठीक, full stop. Next para. During Renaissance, art, literature, science, all flourished. Full stop. A scientific approach to various natural phenomena, the human body, and social institutions became prevalent. Full stop. Elements of the natural and social world, elements of the natural and the social world became objects of close observation and experiments. ठीक, full stop. Old ideas were challenged. Full stop. The defining features of the Renaissance movement, namely क्या? Humanism or realism or empiricism also characterized the discipline of sociology in its early years. I repeat, the defining features of the Renaissance movement, namely humanism, realism, and empiricism, also informed the discipline of sociology in its early years. Full stop. Next para. The Enlightenment period embodied a new spirit of awakening in European society. The Enlightenment period embodied a new spirit of awakening in European society. Full stop. The age of reason, A capital, R capital, marked a clear departure from the traditional thinking of feudal Europe. Full stop. Intellectuals of the era started questioning each and every aspect of social life. Full stop. Nothing was sacrosanct anymore. Nothing was sacrosanct. Sacrosanct means, like, it's not a sociological term, it's an English word. It means basically so sacred that it cannot be challenged or, questioned. Okay? Or you can simply say nothing was beyond question anymore. Okay? Nothing was sacrosanct. Dash. Be it the authority of the church, be it the authority of the church, or the legitimacy of monarchical rule, or the very notion of God itself. ठीक है? Nothing is beyond question. You can now, or people have now begun to question whether a God really exists or not. Nietzsche would some years later declare that God is dead. भगवान की मृत्यु हो गई है. Next para. On that very somber note, Enlightenment thought argued that human beings are essentially कैसे rational. Human beings are essentially rational. Full stop. The society can be reorganized based on rational principles. ठीक? Full stop. Philosophers like Rousseau, Montesquieu, Voltaire, Hobbes, Locke and Adam Smith. एक आध नाम छूट भी जाए तो कोई कलेश नहीं है. Created a new intellectual framework to explain various aspects of social life. Full stop. Their writings laid down the foundation for the French and the industrial revolutions. Full stop. The Enlightenment period also unleashed intellectual currents that influenced the early sociologists. ठीक है? Whatever we've written, we have already discussed. I've just put it down in a essay format. ठीक है ना? Any doubts? We haven't taken up the doubts, right? Any doubts? Yes. What is feudalism? Feudalism, in Hindi we call it Samantvad, or what it really means is basically it's an agricultural or agriculture based economy where agriculture is the mainstay, and then you would have ancillary related activities like cattle rearing, etc. In a feudal economy, you will have feudal lords and serfs. Okay, feudal lords would be those who own land, while the serfs are the ones who work upon that land. जैसे जमींदार और गरीब गांव वाले kind of a thing. Okay. Feudal societies typically politically are organized in terms of a monarchical setup, where the reigning monarch or king is also called or regarded as the supreme lord. So there is subfeudation, the supreme lord or the king at the top level, and then there is subfeudation, meaning he grants rights or lordship over a certain territory to somebody below him and several persons below him, and they would subfeud, etc., etc. Are you with me? And the lower level figure would give some sort of a tribute to the higher level figure. This was the system of this was the feudal economy. 1 second, sorry, 1 second. And what we had discussed in the aftermath of the industrial and French revolutions, the feudal economy and the monarchical political system were transformed into an industrial capitalist economy and a democratic republican form of government. Okay? So the feudal society is typically considered as belonging to the pre-modern era. Okay? And modernization entails a transformation away from feudalism or a breaking down of the feudal order and its replacement by an industrial capitalist order. ठीक? हाँ. Not really. He's asking whether, Renaissance and Enlightenment can be considered overlapping. In European history, these are regarded as two distinct periods of time. They're interconnected for sure. Or let me put it this way: the Renaissance enabled the Enlightenment. When we are writing about, he's asking if you are writing about the Enlightenment, can we touch upon the aspects of Renaissance? A, depending on what the question is exactly asking, and secondly, the words and space at our disposal. They will determine whether we will have the bandwidth to touch upon Renaissance or not. At best, most likely, you will end up mentioning it in passing. Okay, if the question is on Enlightenment, the reference to Renaissance would be in passing. Yes. I won't say they are integrated in the sense one led to the other. One can say that. The Renaissance led to the Enlightenment in certain ways. But should I say the key difference between the two? Renaissance is more of a cultural flowering. A lot of developments, golden age in that sense, literature, art, architecture, poetry, drama, prose, ye sab. Renaissance is more of a cultural movement. Enlightenment is more of an intellectual awakening. So new philosophies which challenge the old order, all of that. But yes, the scientific mindset, the scientific method, dhanyavad bhaiya, which arose or which was discovered during Renaissance, that led to the Enlightenment writings. Anything else? Yes. Why is it so? Let it be now. That's beyond our purview. Okay? We need not get into the details of their theories. You have a lot of things, you can use, say, in the ethics paper. Okay? I think it was Rousseau, he said that man is free. But man was born free, but everywhere he is in chains. Lot of these things, but they don't directly have a bearing on this thing. For our purposes, what would suffice is that they were social contract theorists, and that social contract theory challenged the divine theory of kingship. Okay? Otherwise, it would be a digression, beta. If we get into these questions. Yes. It's 1839. Yeah. So given the greater, more number of sources terming it as 1838, I go by that. Okay. And it was so long back, 1 year wouldn't make too much of a diff. Chale? Yes. What this sentence means, the sentence she is quoting is the sense of security and stability associated with the old order gave way to an unseen uncertainty. What does this mean? This means that prior to the revolutions, there was relative stability in society. The same feudal monarchical setup, church playing a very central role in social life, etc., had been going on since centuries. So there was a certain continuity, stability associated with that old system. Because of the industrial and French revolutions, it happens, okay, to the best of us. Revolutions, there was a lot of uthal-puthal in society. Yeah, so there was a lot of turmoil in society, and whenever there are such large-scale changes, it can be unnerving, right? Because you don't know what the future holds. So a lot of people at large, members of the society at large, and also social thinkers, including early sociologists, they were very concerned about this instability and disorder which they saw in society. Okay? Chaliye, with that I hope that addresses your question, beta. Yeah? With that we move ahead. Give a subheading: intellectual influences on early sociology. Okay, some questions from the online students. Before I start with that, let me just read out the questions and respond to them. Please explain how the modern philosophers' views about society were different from the ancient Greek philosophers. And what were the different approaches they took to analyze the society? So, two main differences if I were to point out. One was in the approach or the method. The modern discipline of sociology or the early sociologists relied upon the scientific method, which was not there in the writings of the ancient Greek philosophers. Secondly, what? दूसरा वाला फोन में कोई यहाँ पे दे दीजिए, टाइम देखने के लिए. Secondly, oftentimes the ancient philosophers were interested more in how society ought to be, okay, or should be, or an ideal state of existence, rather than taking a realist view. So these were the two key differences. I hope that addresses your question, beta. Second question: did capitalism start from industrial revolution? More or less. Capitalism began as mercantilism, or a lot of merchants engaged in trade and international trade and all of that. Eventually it fused into with the process of industrialization. Okay, so what we eventually had was industrial capitalism, and hence the usage of that term. Period of Renaissance, 14th to 17th century. Is there any period of Enlightenment? Yes, Enlightenment was 17th and 18th centuries, mainly the 18th century, and to a lesser extent the 17th century also. Thank you. Why are we calling those who study sociology as philosophers instead of sociologists? They were that. The early sociologists, they were not like, they were more, they played a role in the establishment of the discipline of sociology. There was no sociology before them. They can be referred to as the early sociologists or even social philosophers, equally legitimately. In fact, Comte's book is titled, The Positive Philosophy. Chaliye. So with that, you give the subheading, intellectual influences on early sociology. Now, most of the intellectual influences that we'll be talking about under this heading were primarily of the which period? The Enlightenment period. And what were these influences? Make note. You can number them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The first was, see, when sociology emerged, okay, there were important developments in several other branches of knowledge, and these developments had a bearing on the discipline of sociology during its initial phase as well. One such discipline was biology. बायोलॉजी से हमने क्या सीखा, या हमारे पिताजी ने क्या सीखा? What did the founding fathers pick up, as it were, from biology? One was, yes, also evolution. Two broad things I would point out specifically. One was what we call the organic analogy. And the second was, as rightly pointed out, the concept of evolution. I'll be talking about both of them briefly. Starting with the organic analogy. What is the organic analogy? Analogy means a comparison. Okay? Organic analogy means that the early sociologists, such as, most importantly, Herbert Spencer, his writings have a very discernible imprint of the influence of biology. Also Comte, okay? Scholars like Comte and Spencer, they compared the society to an organism. To an organism. ठीक? How is the society comparable to an organism? Organism means any life form. So just like any organism, pick up any organism, say the human being is an organism. Any organism, say the human being has certain body parts. Like we have eyes and ears and tongue and throat and stomach and liver and kidney and legs and blah blah. These are the different parts of an organism. Similarly, the society comprises of various parts. What are the parts which constitute the society? The various social institutions. So family is one part of the society, religion is another, education system, economy, the political system, these are the main parts of the society. ठीक? What do the different parts of an organism do? What do our different body parts do? They perform their respective functions or their respective roles. Yes or no? In a biological organism or life form, the different parts perform their respective functions or different roles. Meaning what? They somehow contribute to the continuance of the life of the organism. Yes or no? What do the eyes do? See. And what does the nose do? Smell and also breathe. What does the tongue do? Taste. And also speak. Yes. What does the skin do? Protects and also sweats, helping to regulate the body temperature. And so on and so forth. The liver does its own thing, right? And so does the kidney, the heart. Each body part has its own function. Similarly, the different parts of the society perform their respective functions. Arthat, they somehow contribute to the maintenance and well-being of the society or the social organism, if we can call it that. ठीक है? So what does the family do? Or what is the function of the family? How does the family help the, or contribute to the society? Socialization, and before that reproduction. पैदा करोगे तभी तो उनको पाल पोस के बड़ा करोगे. Yes or no? What is the, so these are the functions of the family: reproduction, socialization. What are the functions of the, or what does the political system do? Brother, what does the political system do for the society?
They form policies.
Yes. So they frame the rules, the regulations, the laws and policies which govern our collective lives. Yes or no? So what rules we agree upon, that is kind of decided upon by the political system. What does the economy do?
It promotes efficient distribution of finite resources.
Efficient or not, but it does help in the production of goods and services, various, and their distribution. Some mechanism of distribution, whether it is a barter system, whether it is market based exchange or whatever. ठीक है? So it provides some mechanism for the production of goods and services and their distribution. साफ बात है, हम सबको मेंबर्स को जीने के लिए खाना चाहिए, कपड़े चाहिए, सब कुछ चाहिए. ये सब कहां से प्रोविजन होता है? इकोनॉमी से, राइट? एंड सो ऑन एंड सो forth. Different parts of the society perform their respective functions. Clear? Moving on, may I? The different, coming back to our organism, the different parts of an organism, right? Do they work in isolation or are they interconnected and interdependent? They work in tandem. There is a lot of cooperation and coordination between the various parts of an organism. Yes or no? अगर मैं अपना दिल यहाँ पे निकाल के रख दूं, क्या वो धड़कता रहेगा? Will it do its thing? No. It has to be a part of that structure, connected to the other parts of the body in order to perform its function. Yes or no? So different parts of the body are performing different tasks or different functions. But they cannot do so in a vacuum. They do so necessarily in a state of interconnectedness with the other parts of the body. Yes or no? There has to be coordination between the various parts of the organism. Say, if the stomach is empty, right, you feel hungry. Can the stomach fulfill or satisfy its own hunger? No. What will happen when the stomach is empty? A signal will go to the brain via the nerves that I am empty, I need food. Then brain will send a signal to the eyes, command, that search for food. Then eyes do their thing. They will search for food. Then they'll say, okay, apple spotted. And they'll send the message to the brain. Then the brain will send a message to the hand. Pick up the apple. The hand grabs the apple, puts it in the mouth cavity. The mouth cavity does its own thing. Biting, teeth biting, saliva, salivary glands producing saliva. Then the esophagus will take it down to the stomach. So many body parts are engaged in the satisfaction of the hunger of the stomach. Without their cooperation, the stomach cannot do its thing. Yes or no? Likewise, in a society, different parts of the society perform their respective functions. But they are integrally interconnected and interdependent with various parts of the society, various other parts of the society. For example, this place where we are sitting, it's a part of which system? It's a part of the education system. Can it function? What does the education system do? Impart knowledge and several other things also, but one of the important things being impart knowledge. Can it do its thing? Can the education system impart knowledge without the inputs from the family? परिवारों में बच्चे नहीं पैदा होंगे तो स्कूल कॉलेजों में कौन जाएगा? Yes or no? So reproduction in the family is a must so that this education system gets students. The education system is also connected to the state or the government, the political system. Who lays down the rules and regulations for the functioning of the education system? Who decides on the curriculum, etc.? Oftentimes it is the government. Yes or no? It is also linked to the economy. Why are you guys here after all? So that you can secure an employment. Are you with me? So people aspiring to be lawyers go to law colleges. People aspiring to be doctors go to medical colleges. And so on and so forth. People aspiring to be accountants will go to the Institute of Chartered Accountants, and so on and so forth. So the output or the product of the education system plays a certain role as per, based on the qualifications, the knowledge, etc. acquired, the skills acquired from the education system. The members of the society perform their respective role in the economy. Yes or no? Point is, friends, different parts of the society are also interconnected and interdependent. This is what we call the organic analogy. Clear? Most clearly expressed in the writings of Herbert Spencer. A question is being asked by an online student. Are sociologists with an analytical approach called positivist? I will take that thing, we will come to it. We have not yet discussed positivism. We will do so in a later lecture. So I will not jump to it right now. May I? And another very important thing that, or important this thing that influenced sociology, early sociologists like Spencer, was the theory of evolution. So Spencer applied the Darwinian theory of evolution to society. So his writings are termed as social Darwinism. Social Darwinism. What is the theory of evolution? I knew you will throw this phrase at me. बाकी सब खुद जोड़ लेना. Survival of the fittest. ठीक है? That's of course one key phrase in his theory of evolution. What is evolution? What do you understand by the term evolution? Raise your hand and speak. ठीक है, correct. So in biology, what is the theory of evolution? That life forms have evolved, meaning have transformed from simple, small sized, homogeneous entities into large scale, complex and heterogeneous entities. From, like he mentioned, say amoeba, it became reptiles and then mammals, etc. Of course, so much, I've given you a very broad brushstroke, but that is what is evolution. Okay? Similarly, societies also have evolved from simple and small sized to and homogeneous to large sized, complex and heterogeneous. Say from the primitive tribes to the modern nation states. If it's getting too much, you simply write that as per the theory of social Darwinism, or Spencer's theory of social Darwinism, societies like organisms evolve from simple to complex. Khatam baat. Rest we will cover later as well. Don't get too worked up about having missed some terms or whatever. Okay? So one important influence was that of the biological theories and the biological knowledge. ठीक है? चलें आगे जीवन में. Another important influence was from history. What did we learn? We matlab the early sociologists. What did they pick up from history? Yeah? This notion that society passes through historical stages. This idea that the society passes through various historical stages. Say, closer home, you guys have studied history. How do we periodize it? Ancient history, medieval history, modern history. Right? Similar periodization of history, or the social organization through time, was developed by social thinkers like Gyam Batista. इसको बोलने की कोशिश मत करना, लिख लो, वही बहुत है. एंड सेंट पियरे. They developed this notion, periodizing, or that society passes through various stages. Okay? And this was reflected in the writings of early sociologists like who? Like Sri Karl Marx, who also developed these, stages or historical epochs through which societies pass. Not just Marx, even Comte and Spencer, for that matter. Karl Marx, Comte, Spencer, all of them relied upon this concept of, different stages through which society passes. From history, we also picked up another thing. which was क्या हिस्टोरियन से हमें क्या मिला, मतलब हमें मतलब हमारे पिताजी को, yes, data, absolutely. So for example, when Marx was writing about feudalism, in Marx's theory also there is one stage of feudalism. For that he relied upon data from medieval Europe. And Marx was a modern era figure, right, writing in the 19th century. So how will he get data, old data? That's from history. ठीक. Another important influence on the discipline was the notion of progress. The notion of progress. What do you understand by the English word progress? How is it different from the word change? Or are they same? Yes, progress indicates becoming better, improvement. Yes or no? Or shall we say continuous improvement? That is what the word progress indicates. So, please appreciate, understand the intellectual climate of that time. In the other sciences, physics, chemistry, bio, a lot of strides had been made, based on which there had been several technological breakthroughs and developments, which had resulted in immense progress in the material realm or the economic realm. So human beings were now producing goods at a very large scale, which was never seen before in human history. It seemed we had literally perfected the system of production of goods. Are you with me? With mass-based factory production, earlier one shirt it would take one man 10 days to produce. Now in a day, 1,000 or 2,000 shirts are being produced. Yes or no? And better quality, cheaper price, and so on. So thanks to the progress in the natural and physical sciences, a lot of improvement, betterment was seen in human lives. ठीक है? Technological and economic progress created this whole mindset that if we apply the same principles, the same methods, perhaps we can, if we can perfect the way of manufacturing shirts, why can't we perfect the form of family? Are you with me? Or why can't we have that perfect political system? So there was an immense belief in this notion of progress and a striving for perfectibility of social institutions. जो तरक्की हमने कपड़े या किसी भी चीज के मैन्युफैक्चर में देखी है, राइडिंग ऑन साइंटिफिक नॉलेज इन से केमिस्ट्री एंड बायो एंड फिजिक्स या मेडिसिन में देखी है, वही तकनीक लगा के, वही मेथड्स यूज करके, वही एम्पेरिकल एविडेंस बेस्ड अप्रोच रख के, वी कैन परहैप्स क्रिएट द परफेक्ट फैमिली और द परफेक्ट पॉलिटिकल सिस्टम और द परफेक्ट एजुकेशन सिस्टम. आर यू विद मी? So that notion of progress, perfectibility of social institutions, was a driving force. ठीक. बन गई परफेक्ट फैमिली या परफेक्ट पॉलिटिकल सिस्टम, वो भी वेस्ट का. It is anybody's guess, na? So that was the naivety of the early philosophers. They saw immense potential in the promise of science and the scientific approach. Yeah. Agla influence. Yes. It does, according to the early sociologists like Comte, like Durkheim, even Marx. It is objective. Whether it is or, or to what extent, we will take it up when we discuss the, whether sociology is a science or not. But they were fully convinced. The early sociologists were fully convinced without an iota of doubt that it is as scientific a discipline. Sociology is as scientific a discipline. The study of societies and human relationships is as scientific an endeavor as physics or chemistry. They did not take into account, or they rather did not give importance to the subjective elements in human nature. I'll put it this way. Which we did as a discipline. When? Who onwards? Weber onwards. Theek? But that time the approach, in the early phases of sociology, the approach was scientific, purely. So next influence was the influence of the scientific method. Basically, the scientific method, which had resulted in great improvements in other sciences, was also sought to be applied to the study of society. These points are not necessarily very neatly disjointed. Okay, they are all interrelated. Particularly, which method became or caught the fancy of the early sociologists was the social survey. लिखिए अगला, the social survey method. Sorry, अगला लिख लो, चलेगा. सोशल सर्वे क्या होता है? यू कंडक्ट अ सर्वे, गैदर इंफॉर्मेशन अबाउट द कैरेक्टरिस्टिक्स ऑफ द पॉपुलेशन बाय मीटिंग पीपल एंड कलेक्टिंग देयर इंफॉर्मेशन, राइट? So the emphasis of this method was on collecting quantifiable data. In order to study social problems. And this method, that you collect data by a social survey, became popular after Eden's study of the poor report. Eden is the name of the fellow who conducted the survey. Eden's state of the poor report onwards, the social survey method became popular. Eden's study, titled State of the Poor, after its publication, this social survey method became widely used. And now, with the use of the survey method, it now began to be regarded that social problems can be understood, analyzed scientifically. For example, he studied poverty. Earlier, problems like poverty have been analyzed earlier as well. But earlier, problems like poverty were attributed to what? अगर आप गरीब हो, आप क्यों गरीब हो? क्यों गरीब हो आप? पास्ट सिंस की वजह से, क्योंकि आप पापी हो. पापी इंसान गरीब होता है, यह आपके पुराने कर्मों का फल है. In other words, there was divine causation that would be attributed. Right? So earlier social problems were explained away by referring to divine or natural causes. आप गरीब हो क्योंकि आप मंद बुद्धि हो. Right? Because you are dumb. Or because you are weak. Or because you are a sinner. That is why you are poor. But, sorry, causation, divine causation. But now, social problems like poverty came to be regarded as man-made. They are a result of social conditions. And this can be analyzed by quantification, collecting large-scale data and processing it. And then you identify solutions accordingly. Are you with me? तो अगर गरीब हो तो पूजा पाठ भजन मत करो, उससे नहीं गरीबी दूर होगी. कैसे गरीबी दूर होगी? फॉर एग्जाम्पल, आई एम दैट ईडन फेलो और द रिसर्चर और अ रिप्रेजेंटेटिव ऑफ द गवर्नमेंट conducting this survey. My data may tell me that गरीब क्यों है वो इंसान? Because he is uneducated. So my data may reveal me that 92% of the poor population had not studied beyond class 5. Are you with me? So one of the major causes for poverty is lack of education. Or another reason of poverty could be lack of access to opportunities due to being born in a poor family. Or my data may tell me, these are all hypotheticals I am giving you, only if my data tells me this, but it will tell me something. Okay, so in Indian society I see that there's a good correlation between poverty and caste. The lower castes are overwhelmingly poor because there is caste-based discrimination. Or I may find that you are poor or there's widespread poverty because of lack of gainful employment opportunities. नौकरी नहीं है दुनिया में, समाज में. Are you with me? And how will I come to these conclusions? धर्मगुरु ने बताया है, धर्म ग्रंथों में लिखा है? नहीं. Based on conducting a large scale survey, collecting large amounts of quantifiable data and then objectively processing it. Then we can make policy interventions accordingly. Yes or no? तो गरीबी से बाहर लाने के लिए लोगों को क्या करना चाहिए? अच्छा, लैक ऑफ एजुकेशन है तो सरकार गरीबों की एजुकेशन को स्पॉन्सर करे या प्रोविजन करे, सम स्कॉलरशिप्स, दिस और दैट. Yes or no? So that new approach to solving social problems. All right? Another important May I proceed? Another important influence, intellectual influence. See, most of these influences that we have discussed, intellectual influences, they were of what? They were a product of enlightenment. Whether it is the scientific method and the scientific temperament, rationality, Darwinian theory, yes or no? The historical periodization, all of it. Okay? The notion of progress, all of that, these are the products of enlightenment in some way or the other. But there was another product of the enlightenment, but it was the counter-enlightenment thought. The counter-enlightenment ideas of philosophers like de Bonald and de Maistre, which also had some impact on early sociology. This is another influence, intellectual influence on early sociology, one of these points that you're mentioning, counter-enlightenment thought or counter-enlightenment ideas of scholars like de Bonald and de Maistre. Matlab, these guys were opposed to the Enlightenment project. What was Enlightenment? Enlightenment was about rationality, scientific approach, discarding the old and adopting the new, and that is why enlightenment resulted in modernity. Are you with me? Enlightenment was about challenging the traditional holders of power like monarchs, traditional sources of knowledge like the church or the scriptures. It was about individualism replacing collectivism. All of this. Yes or no? It was about applying one's own mind rather than bowing down before, power holders and knowledge ke thekedars, etc. Or divinity for that matter. Right? Counter-enlightenment philosophers like de Bonald and de Maistre, they were opposed to enlightenment. Why? Because they saw it primarily as a source of instability and chaos in society. So these guys were conservative in their orientation. इनको लगा था समाज में बहुत ज्यादा उथल पुथल हो रहा है enlightenment की वजह से, which is not desirable. It is creating an anarchic situation. It is leading to instability, chaos, disorder. So these guys literally yearned to restore the old order. So they actually wrote and very forcefully argued for the restoration of monarchy, restoration of the powers of the church or the salience of the church in social affairs. Are you with me? क्या ये डेमोक्रेसी वेमोक्रेसी? Clear? Early sociologists, were they influenced by enlightenment or counter-enlightenment? Mainly enlightenment. So their approach was also scientific, rational, progressive. These guys were somewhat regressive in that sense, counter-enlightenment ideas, right? They were against progress, which they saw as destabilizing. But early sociologists, to some extent, were also influenced by the counter-enlightenment thought. Where? like the counter-enlightenment philosophers, some of the early sociologists also expressed a concern with disorder and instability in society. Or simply write, counter-enlightenment thought of de Bonald and de Maistre reflects a concern about disorder, instability, and chaos. Concern about disability and chaos in society. Full stop. This concern is also reflected ऐसे लिखो, the concern for order and stability, the concern for order and stability, the concern for order and stability is also reflected in the writings of early sociologists like Durkheim. Durkheim, friends, for instance, he gave this concept of anomy. We'll discuss in detail later. Basically, anomy means disorder and instability. Okay? Chaos. Durkheim or any of the founding fathers, mind you, were not completely influenced by counter-enlightenment scholars. In the sense, counter-enlightenment scholars would argue for the restoration of the old feudal monarchical setup. Durkheim or other early sociologists did not want the restoration of the old order, but they wanted the instability to end. Okay? So, partly influenced by the concern for order and stability, but not seeking a restoration of the old order like the counter-enlightenment scholars. I hope it's okay. Yeah? So these were the various intellectual influences on early sociology. Conclude with a sentence. Irving Zetlin in his book the title of the book is Ideology and the Development of Sociological Theory. Ideology and the Development of Sociological Theory suggests that early sociology developed as a reaction to enlightenment. As a reaction to enlightenment. ठीक है? This is about that. I just want to also discuss briefly this notion of modernity or modern society. We've already covered it. I'm just like trying to put it all in one place. Okay? Why? Because in our syllabus the topic is modernization of Europe and the emergence of sociology. What do you understand by modernity or modern society? We've already talked about this. I'm just putting it in context. What do you understand by modernity? Think differently. Okay, different compared to जो अभी चल रहा है, ठीक है, okay. Counter to the orthodox or the old. Huh. Yes. Sorry? Tools? Tools to make life easier. I won't, that's not how we'll best define. I'm sorry. Very good. Adopting new ways in place of old ones. Okay? Yes. So modernity basically, friends, modernization of Europe began with Renaissance. Right? And throughout the Renaissance period and then the Age of Reason or Enlightenment, culminating in the French and Industrial Revolutions. So the modernization of Europe was a very long drawn process. And the society which finally resulted from this process in Europe in 18th and 19th century is what we term as modern society. Wait. That is what we call as modern society. As was very rightly pointed out by our dear friend here, the term modern indicates new. New thinking, new ways. And new is a relative term. Something is new only in comparison to something which is older. So modernity as a concept stands opposed to, what is the opposite of modern? Traditional or pre-modern. If you lack imagination, you call it pre-modern or traditional. Okay? The term modern literally would imply new or current, as opposed to the old. So modern society, friends, emerged in Europe after the French and Industrial Revolutions. And what is this modern society? Characterized by the old giving way to the new. So decline of feudal economy and the rise of industrial capitalism. Decline of monarchical forms of government and the rise of democratic and republican forms of government. Decline of the joint family system and the rise of nuclear family form. Urbanization, family nuclearization, the hold of religion on the society getting strengthened or weakened? Substantially weakened. What we term as secularization, not secularism, secularization. Instead of religion, what becomes the new source of knowledge? Science. So the spread of scientific temperament and scientific knowledge and rational thinking. All of these are characteristics of a modern society. Urban living rather than rural. The development of a mass-based education system, mass media, bureaucracy, stratification system changing from traditional estate type system to a class-based stratification system. technological modernization, of course. New technologies of transportation, communication, production. Yes or no? Modern values like liberty, equality, individualism, instead of collectivism or deference to authority, etc., etc. ठीक. John Travolta, no, Harris, writes that the discipline of sociology emerged in direct response to the social problems posed by modernity. क्या प्रॉब्लम्स? बढ़िया तो है, साइंटिफिक और रैशनल और मस्त फैक्ट्रियों में जॉब्स. क्या प्रॉब्लम्स थी? पढ़ चुके हो, वरना फिर से लेक्चर दे दूंगा. What were the problems associated with modernity? Raise your hands and speak up quickly. Income inequalities. Inequalities. Lack of sanitation. Domestic violence. Exploitation of workers at the back. Crime. Long working hours. Degradation of natural resources. Isolation and loneliness. Why is nuclearization a problem? It's a process. What's the problem with nuclearization? Child labor. Overpopulation. Alienation. Inequality. Crime rise. All of these. Pollution. Slums. Burden on urban resources. Lack of emotional support. You're putting a lot of feeling into it. Huh? It's almost like it's heartfelt. जी. New diseases. ठीक है. बहुत नहीं, not बहुत धन्यवाद. But ठीक है. We take a pause here. Huh? We get the problems. So, and then we recommence after a break. Hi friends, welcome back. Please settle down and we move ahead. We are done with much of the emergence of discipline of sociology, okay, except one tiny topic which we should pay attention to, which is the development of sociology in the United States of America. In the United States of America. In our syllabus, if you pick up, it says modernization of Europe and the emergence of sociology. Okay, so this is not a wajib topic if you go strictly by the syllabus. But UPSC in its wisdom, in one of the years, has asked about the development of sociology in the US, and that is why we touch upon it. Okay? As regards the development of the discipline in the US goes, we need to appreciate the socio-political context of USA. American society, friends, also underwent a period of immense churning or turmoil, which had an influence on the development of social sciences and particularly sociology in the US. What we today call the United States of America were several British colonies, right? They came together in a violent revolutionary upsurge, what are called the American Revolutionary Wars, and overthrew the British. And we mentioned in the context of the French Revolution how the French monarch had also supported the American revolutionaries. America, in the American Constitution, some key ideals were enshrined. So it was stated that all men are created equal. A very radical kind of a statement back then. The American Constitution was when? Signed when? क्या डेट है वो? हम सबका इंडिपेंडेंस डे होता है वो हॉलीवुड मूवीज में पूरी दुनिया का. सॉरी, हाँ, 3rd या 4th of July, 4th of July 1776. ठीक है, वन ऑफ द key authors of the American Declaration of Independence was the third American president, Thomas Jefferson. Benjamin Franklin was later. So, and there you had such radical ideas that all men are created equal, that no man will be deprived of his it had this concept of 3 unalienable rights of every man. 3 unalienable rights. Matlab, these rights cannot be taken away. You cannot be alienated from those rights or deprived of those rights. Every man has 3 unalienable rights, which are the right to life, or the right to life, liberty, and but in a different way. A very popular Will Smith movie, and the pursuit of happiness. ठीक है? मतलब American society was rights based. Modern American society was rights based, focused on the rights of the individual. America was seen as a land of, and even today is seen as a land of opportunities. But within a century of its founding, America saw itself in a very bloody civil war. There was a civil war in America between the North and the South. In United States of America, not North America, South America, in the what we today call North United States of America, between its North and South, there was a civil war from about 1861 to 1865. So there were military campaigns and it was between Americans. That's why civil, matlab internal kind of a war. Civil war was on the question of abolition of slavery. Okay? The South plantation owners wanted to retain slavery, while the American Union, dominated by the North, wanted to abolish it. We don't need to get into American history per se. Only thing is, America was in a lot of turmoil. And sociology emerged in this context of turmoil in America. In the year 1865, so 1861 to 65, you have the American Civil War. In the year 1865, the American Social Science Association was established. The American Social Science Association was established in 1865. In 1875, क्या हुआ था? The first course in sociology was introduced by William Graham Sumner. In 1892, क्या हुआ था? Very good. The first department of sociology was established by Albion Small. In 1920s, by 1920s, Chicago University had emerged as a major hub of sociological writings and research. Chicago emerged as a hub of sociological research by 1920s. Why Chicago particularly? Please appreciate, Chicago was a very rapidly urbanizing city. Very fast expanding population, lot of opportunities, etc. So it provided kind of a natural laboratory for the researchers. Many of the topics, like crime if you want to investigate, urban planning if you want to investigate. Chicago emerged as a very natural laboratory, as we call it. Like natural setting hai, you don't have to. Are you with me? So the Chicago School, what came to be known as the Chicago School, made important contributions to the development of American sociology. Chicago School scholars like Robert Park, Burgess, scholars like G.H. Mead, William Thomas. Wait. they made important contributions to the Chicago School. Particularly, yes? Need any clarification there, guys? Do you guys need any clarification? Particularly, friends, the Chicago School made immense contributions to what we today call urban sociology. Urban sociology. And also to studies of crime or criminology, juvenile delinquency, etc. Delinquency. Juveniles refer to people who are below the legal age of, like in India it has been conventionally 18 years, right? So juvenile delinquency would refer to some sort of crime or socially unacceptable behavior in which juveniles or those below, say, the age of 18 or the legally recognized age, they would engage in. Like, for example, juvenile delinquents may engage in behavior like petty crime, petty theft, chain snatching, मोबाइल चोरी कर लेंगे, कार जैकिंग, ठीक है. This whole issue of juvenile crimes in India became this thing, and the punishment for it in the aftermath of the Nirbhaya gang rape, because one of the convicted rapists was a juvenile, and then there were changes under public pressure made to the Juvenile Justice Act so as to reduce for certain heinous crimes, you know, that those above the age of 16 but below 18 can be treated as adults. Okay, but that guy like got let off under the then prevailing juvenile justice law. ठीक है? Juveniles are also prone to stuff like, you know, drug addiction and the like. ठीक है? So all of these things, juvenile delinquency, crime, urban planning, neighborhood patterns, etc., were studied by the Chicago School of Sociologists. The development of sociology in the US was also strongly influenced by the development of sociology in Europe. So, William Graham Sumner, okay, in the US, championed social Darwinism, influenced by whose writings? Spencer's writings. I repeat, Sumner was influenced by the writings of Spencer. Sumner in US was influenced by the writings of Herbert Spencer. So he championed the social evolutionary approach in American sociology. I said Sumner in the US was influenced by the writings of Spencer, Herbert Spencer, or Spencer's social Darwinism. So, Sumner championed the evolutionary view in American sociology. Alright? And Sumner was one of the initial guys early sociologist in the US, right? Introducing the first course of sociology. So very influential in that sense. Now, which segment of the society you expect would support or would be happy about the evolutionary view of society? The rich and the privileged or the poor and the disprivileged? Huh? Who would support the evolutionary view? थोड़ा दिमाग लगाइए और बताइए. And काहे? Why the rich? Those who say the rich. Raise your hands and speak. Yes. Absolutely. So the evolutionary approach was kind of, this concept of survival of the fittest. So the fact that they are surviving and they are thriving proves they are fitter. Are you with me? Or they are simply more capable. And that is why they are enjoying the privileges that they do. So the rich tend to, धन्यवाद भैया, रख दीजिए, tend to support an evolutionary view or social Darwinism. Also, social Darwinism championed a laissez-faire economic model or a free market economic model. Why? Because free market says what? Those who are the most competitive, those who can adapt the best to the market situations, they will survive. And that's only good overall for the society, right? So their privilege, their wealth is a proof of their greater ability, greater fitness than those who are poor or disprivileged. Are you with me? So the conservative sections of the society who were already rich would support the evolutionary approach of Sumner in the US. But into the 20th century, say from 1890 to 1920s, 1890 to about 1920s, in American history is known as the progressive era. It is known as the progressive era. Now, during this period, the discipline of sociology also took a different direction. Matlab, away from social Darwinism. Social Darwinism, which dominated American sociological thought under Sumner's influence in its early days, was now replaced by the greater influence of the writings of नहीं, not Marx. Americans hate Marx. नहीं, not Weber. रुक जाओ. Lester Frank Ward. Lester Frank Ward or L.F. Ward, who in his book titled Dynamic Sociology, challenged social Darwinism. He Ward was also the president of the American Social Science Association. Ward's thinking was very different from that of Sumner. The American Social Science Association. That's an aside, not too material. And Ward was of the view that the purpose of science is not just to observe from a distance. The purpose of the science of sociology is not just to observe from a distance. Instead, sociology, the discipline of sociology should, समझ रहे हो लिख रहे हो या दोनों? लिख रहे हो, सच तो ये है. ओके, सो पहले सुन लो, फिर अपने आप पैराफ्रेज करके लिख लेना जब मैं पॉजेस दूंगा, है ना? तो मत लिखो ना, डोंट टेक इट एज अ डिक्टेशन इफ इट्स नॉट इंटेंडेड टू बी. Frank Ward, Lester Frank Ward, he basically disagreed in very fundamental ways from Sumner's evolutionary approach. He was of the view that social sciences, particularly sociology, should play a proactive role in reshaping the society, in guiding public policy. He was against the laissez-faire or, giving market forces a free hand kind of an approach, which was promoted by the Darwinists. He argued the governments they must intervene in society. So public policy, guided by sociological research, should make effective interventions in the society. फिर लिखने पे आ गए हो, सुधरोगे नहीं आप. The government cannot remain a government, or sociology, the discipline of sociology cannot remain a mute spectator to the problems of the society. लिखो, if that is your greater interest. L.F. Ward argued that the discipline of sociology should scientifically guide socio-economic development. By informing public policy. Informing matlab affecting or whatever. क्या बोला मैंने अभी? The discipline of sociology should guide socio-economic development by informing public policy or by helping shape public policy. ठीक है? The scientific study of society must help solve social problems. Must help solve social problems. ठीक है? Full stop. Government should intervene and ensure that all members of the society have their basic needs met. ठीक है. What should the government do? So, yes, government should take up various welfare measures, such as providing universal education, healthcare, regulating market players, etc. So many contend that Ward is the father of the welfare state. The notion of the welfare state is attributed also to the writings of L.F. Ward. ठीक है. Basically, he proposed that the government should take up welfare measures. The government should not have a hands-off approach. Social Darwinists argued for a hands-off approach by the government. Because if the government intervenes, it will end up, somehow spoiling the evolution of the society. Introducing some discrepancy or the other. This period, the progressive era that we spoke of, was also a period of immense social activism in the US. It was also a period of social activism. For instance, you had the earliest writings by a black sociologist, Du Bois. Du Bois. Who highlighted the problem of racial discrimination in American society. Du Bois, friends, is basically to the blacks in America what Ambedkar is to the Dalits and the Dalit movement in India. ये मान के चलो. मतलब the ideological fount of the blacks, movement for civil rights and emancipation. ठीक है? The earliest feminist writings can be traced to Charlotte Gilman. I hope you won't make me move. You will. ठीक. Writings. और क्या? By mid 20th century or about, American sociology came to be dominated by the writings of Parsons. He is one of the 6 thinkers mentioned in our syllabus. ठीक है? So these were some of the shifts in the sense, when you begin with Sumner, his writings were purely of an academic nature, supported by the privileged sections of the society. You move to, say, the writings of Du Bois. Sociology shifts out of academia and into the domain of the public. Like Ambedkar's writings, if you can draw a parallel there. Are you with me? So it's not just merely, a few teachers and researchers and students in universities who are dealing with it, but having a large public impact. Kya naam hai tumhara? Ward. His writings had a direct bearing on American administration, giving it a welfare orientation. Parsons tak jab tak aaye to Parsons was what we call a functionalist. Functional sociology. Again, which tends to somewhat justify or rationalize the prevailing social arrangements. That everything is hunky dory, sab bhala changa. कुछ खास करने की किसी को जरूरत नहीं है. So that is about the development of sociology in America. ठीक है? So that's about it. We are done for the day. बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद. I'll answer you. Yeah, you're asking me, is it like moving from capitalism to communism? No. Yagan, it is not moving from capitalism to communism. It is more like moving from capitalism of an exploitative kind to what we call welfare capitalism. Okay? The capitalist framework remains, but with some, what do you call, welfare orientation. I hope that clears it for you. Yagon. Thank you.